Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today, we're going to cover some nautical vocabulary. Let's start with the big ones. The pointy end of the ship is the bow. That is the end that bows into the waves as you're sailing through the water. The round end of the ship is the stern. The left-hand side of the ship is the port side. This is specifically the left-hand side while you're facing the bow. The port side does not change when you turn to the stern, and now your left side is the opposite side of the ship. So the left side, when facing the bow, is always the port side. That's the side with the red running light, and you can remember port because both port and left are four-letter words that end with T. The opposite of that, of course, the right-hand side of the ship when you're facing the bow, is the starboard side. In the old age of sailing ships, used to be right-hand side was starboard and left-hand side was larboard. And it turns out those two words sound way too similar. So after hundreds of years of doing it like that, they changed to port and starboard instead of starboard and larboard. The thing you walk on when you're on the ship is called the deck. It's not the floor. It's nothing else. Because on old wooden ships, it was a literal wooden deck. And in the Navy, we never let progress get in the way of tradition, so it continues to be called the deck. What we would call the ceiling in our house is called the overhead. Ceiling is actually around the base of the compartment where you might have crown molding in your house. Openings in walls that you might pass through are called doors, and openings in decks that you might pass through are called hatches. In the old school Navy, the ladderways were hatches because they were literally like cargo loading hatches. They pulled double duty. On modern ships, the terminology stays. The walls are called bulkheads instead of walls. So walls inside the ship are bulkheads. The stairs on ships are called ladders. The ladders on ships are also called ladders. So you've got ladders, which are the straight up and down vertical. And then you've got ladders, which are more straight up and down vertical than a flight of stairs, but they're still at a slight angle. And there is no set angle for these ladders on a ship. They're really fit to angle in whichever space that they're in. So there are some that are pretty luxurious, and there are others that you just have to wonder, why isn't this a traditional vertical ladder? Why did they even try to put an angle on it? Ships tend not to have windows. They are portholes. Those are the round openings in the hulls of the ships. Although, some spaces like the bridge does have traditional square windows. The pointy things that stick up and have flags hung on them are called masts. And attached to the masts are rigging. Rigging could be standing rigging, like the cables that hold the masts upright on some ships, although most modern ships tend to just have welded masts that don't need that. And they could have running rigging, which is like flag halyards and things like that that move to do work. Some flags have different words. Your national flag is called an ensign. An ensign is also a rank on the ship. Try not to let it confuse you too much. The flag that shows your ship is an actual warship is called the Jack or the Naval Jack. It is not called the Union Jack. That's a British thing. The Naval Jack tends to be a portion of the national flag made into a smaller flag that would be flown from the bow when the ship is in port. This again dates back to the age of sails when everything is a three-masted, square-rigged boat with a stripe down the side of it. You can't really tell, is this a warship? Is it a merchant ship? They all are painted the same. So warships would fly a jack when they're in port. And we still do that on modern ships. The modern American jack is just the blue field of stars with the number of stars that were in the Union at that time. During World War II, this would be a 48-star jack. Throughout the rest of the ship's career, it's a 50-star jack. The Navy has also used the quote-unquote first naval jack, which is just the red stripes with the "Don't Tread on Me" snake on it. While we were fighting the war on terrorism, that was the jack flown by all Navy ships. That was never flown on this ship when she was in service. The first Jack is only flown by the oldest ship in the Navy that's still active. Another title on the ship is Captain. Captain is a rank, and it's also an honorific. So not all ships have captain rank captains or commanding officers. On smaller ships, you might be a commander, lieutenant commander, even a lieutenant who is in command of the ship, and you're still called captain even though you don't hold that rank. On a ship like this, the commanding officer was almost always a captain. There's also a captain of Marines often assigned to the ship. The senior ranking Marine Corps officer might hold the rank of captain, which is a lower rank in the Army and Marine Corps than and Air Force than in the Navy. So even though they are a captain, that is not equivalent to commander of a ship. So some gun terminology. Ships have guns and not cannons. Even though if you were to take the 16-inch guns off of these ships and mount them somewhere else, the Army might refer to them as cannons. In the Navy, it's always a gun. Large artillery are great guns. Handguns and rifles and those sorts of things are small arms. It's not guns versus cannons like it might be in other branches. Gun mounts that are armored are called turrets. So Iowa-class battleships have 3 turrets. Gun mounts that are not armored are just called mounts. This gets a little fidgety because some unarmored mounts actually are fully enclosed. And some fully enclosed unarmored mounts actually have armor plating in the form of splinter protection. So like the 5-inch guns actually have something like 2.5 inches of armor plate on them. They're still considered to be in gun mounts. That isn't full-on armor protection. On ships other than battleships, the 5-inch guns come in an open mount called a pedestal mount. They come in shielded mounts, where the mount only has an armored faceplate at the front, but it's open in the back and sides and top. And they come in completely enclosed mounts, like you see on most destroyers that are contemporary to Battleship New Jersey. But unlike the battleship 5-inch mounts, to save weight, those are purely just like sheet metal boxes built around the gun to protect it more from the elements than from any actual projectiles. Speaking of armor, battleships have a couple of armored spaces, such as the armored conning tower, which is the command station. That is not necessarily the entire tower. The conning tower is usually forward of that where the bridge is, and not the whole fire control tower going up behind it with the rangefinder on top. Battleships also don't necessarily have full armor protection. American battleships in particular utilize the all or nothing scheme, where they have an armored box and then the ends of the ship are completely unarmored. That armored box is called the Armored Citadel. So that is where all of your important, vital or explosive components are stored. And it's also got the reserve of buoyancy that if your unarmored spaces start to take damage, it can continue to keep the ship floating. Some other terminologies you might hear on the ship, particularly relating to cruise life, reefer, that's just the refrigerator spaces. The ships carry ice cream. That might be referred to as dog pile, particularly when it comes out of the soft serve machine, or it might be referred to as G-dunk or G-dunk. G-dunk, in addition to being an ice cream-like snack, is also the ship's snack bar, which is near cruise mess at the back of the ship on Iowa-class battleships. And it served like snacks, treats, desserts, that sort of stuff outside of regular meal hours. So if you were hungry, you were on watch through a meal or something like that, you could still pick up a snack there. So that's some of the terminology you need to remember on board a ship. We haven't even gotten into the acronyms yet. We'll save that for another day. What are some Navy unique words that you'd like to see the definition of in a future video? Let us know in the comment section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of businesses and private viewers like yourselves. In particular, over the last year, your donations to the museum have allowed us to keep this channel going. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue to support us. And also remember, you can support us by sharing, and subscribing. That helps more people see our content, and it lets you know when we're putting out new content, which is several times a week. Thanks for watching. See you next time.